Hello everyone, welcome to Loving Life Conversation Series, People Who Change the World. Today we have Minal, who is the CEO and co-founder of AllTakes. Welcome, Minal.
Thank you, Faye.
So you work at Google, YouTube, LinkedIn, Amazon, all of these tech companies, and then you founded AllTakes. I want to start by asking why AllTakes and what is AllTakes?
All right, so AllTakes actually ultimately is all about women's empowerment. It's a place where women entrepreneurs can come and build businesses. We help them get started, we give them the confidence, we give them the community, we give them the tools to set up community and content-based businesses. Most women actually create these businesses that help other women in a variety of ways, whether it is through style or meditation, through book clubs, whatever it might be. But ultimately, it creates a space for women to build their own confidence, to live life with intention, and to show up as they are. So in Success, AllTakes is a place where people can go in and live their life with intention, participating in activities that are led by women entrepreneurs, and finding community that speaks to them. So it's a place that you feel good about on the internet.
It's a place you feel good about on the internet.
Yes, that's the goal. That's the goal. We all spend so much of our time online, and that's not changing. Through the pandemic, we spent more of our time online. And so our layer of the internet, we hope, is a place where you can come and be who you are and get back in touch with who you are as a participant. But as a woman entrepreneur, you can come and build the type of business that you want to build on your own terms so that you can make money doing the thing that you want to do.
So it's both a way to empower women and women entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
I remember when we talked last time, you said creating financial and economic opportunity for women is very important. I wonder, where does that come from? What life events or experience shaped how you think about women and the financial opportunity for them?
Yeah, so I think, patterns always connect when you look back. So I think this concept of economic opportunity has always been near and dear to my heart. I grew up in India, middle-class family. We had what we needed, but you see all sorts of people around you, and people are more fortunate and less fortunate, and there's a huge divide. I was fortunate enough to follow my passion and come here to the US, to Stanford, where I started focusing on pre-med when I came in. And I realized within a couple of years that I am much more of a computer scientist. And so I ended up majoring in computer science. And that was the first time I realized that there are places where you can sort of be who you want to be, change who you are and do what you want to do. And so in my mid-20s, I actually have a business plan for a website that I never started, which tapped into the angst of, I would say, the 28 to 34-year-olds. All these high-achieving people who have gotten to where they need to get to, but then they're unhappy with their lives, right? And there's this moment of self-reflection, of understanding, how do I make money while also being who I am? And so that thread in my life started very young, definitely in my mid-20s. You can already see artifacts of that happening. As I got a little bit older and had my daughter in 2012, I realized that it's hard for everybody to pursue their passion, but it's also actually much harder for women as we get older. Just externally, people put us in boxes, but also internally, we start families, we have partners, our partners have ambitions. Many women decide that they're going to play a supporting role in the family life. And so this idea of doing what you want and making money sort of starts fading even more for women than everybody else. And so that became really important to me, to give women the choice to do what they want to do to make money. And choice is a really important word, because once you have money, once you make money, you actually have a lot of choice. And so women, all of this went through my head, women can leave abusive marriages, they can go start off on their own if they had the money. But if they have no financial means, then they're stuck in the life that they're stuck in. And this is true no matter where you are in the world and where you are in the socioeconomic ladder. So I was all right, letting women, helping women own who they are, show up as who they are, making money gives them so much choice. And then the last thing I'll say is that I did a bunch of reading around that time and realized that when women grow, their whole community grows. If a woman gets wealthy or a woman makes money, she doesn't keep it for herself. Her children benefit from it. They get better education. The community benefits from it. And so it's a way of creating change in the world by helping a woman make money on her own terms.
By helping women make money on their own terms. So recently I had a conversation with my yoga teacher. I asked her, what is money? And she said, money is like currency. It's like water. It comes and goes. And what I hear from you is money is a tool to empower women. It's a tool to give them the freedom to make choices.
Yes.
I wonder what you think about money as an entrepreneur who has raised money and as corporate executive who have made money all your life.
I think you said it correctly. Like, money is freedom at the end of the day. You don't need to have a lot, but you need to have money that affords you the life that you want to live, affords you the choice, right? Many of us, you included, we've worked in corporate lives for a long time. We've made money. Oftentimes, even when I went to business school, like they said, like, you should always have some money, so if you want to leave, you can leave, right? There's a sense of freedom that you get when you have money, and you, I think, approach life with a sense of abundance that you don't if you're constantly just trying to live paycheck to paycheck. Now, what your yoga teacher said is also true. Like, optimizing to make money, I think, has never made anybody happy. Right? Like, you're optimizing to be who you are, to achieve your goals, to be with people you want to be with. And you want to make enough money that, like, you can live the life you want to live and give you the choice and the freedom that you want. But if you're optimizing to make money, I think I've met many people who are incredibly unhappy who've gone down that path and haven't achieved the life outcomes that they expected because money was a goal versus a means.
Yes, many people think, oh, if I have money, then I'll be happy. But it turns out it's not the case. So AllTakes, as you mentioned, is really the best experience. Live to your life's fullest potential online. How are you creating that experience?
Oh my gosh. And so this comes back to all the training that I had at all the companies that you mentioned, right? And so it's a marketplace. AllTakes is a marketplace. On one hand, you have women entrepreneurs, and on the other hand, you have people who want to take part in what they have to offer, right? So the best way to think about AllTakes is it's like Main Street. You're walking down, there's a bunch of shops. Each entrepreneur owns a shop. That shop is owned and operated by them. They're not like slave to any algorithm, like they operate the shop the way they want to operate the shop, right? On the other hand, there's people who are walking down the street and you decide, I want to pop into the knitting shop, or I want to pop into the bakery, or whatever you want to pop into, and that is also your choice. It's not like an algorithm that feeds you the next thing and the next thing. Again, you have some agency, so that's the marketplace we're imagining. The way we're building it is you have to start by building the street with a shop, so people want to come there. So we're building these shops for women entrepreneurs to come and set up their businesses. And when we have enough of these women entrepreneurs who've come and set up their businesses, then Main Street will emerge as we help others discover these unique things that these women are selling and sharing.
I love the beautiful analogy you had. It's a Main Street with many shops, people who are passionate about what they do, people who have something to offer, to share. And then that's the first step you're building. And then once this price is thriving, then more customers will come and engage. I feel when you were talking, you have a real way to connect with people, to give people the power, to put the power in people's hands. How are you doing that?
Oh, that is a really good question, Faye, and a deep question. I think, when you feel that, when other people I'm around feel that, and when I feel it, it's really simple. It's when someone is present and sees you for who you are and engages with you at that level, right? Like if I'm talking to you, but my mind is in a different, million different places. I need to pick up my kids. What am I making for dinner? Oh my gosh, like I have all these meetings this afternoon. I need to think about like these investors. I need to have when I'm thinking about all of that, I'm not here with you and I don't see you. And when I don't see you, you don't feel empowered. And so I think through years of, practice, but also just, I know when I feel good when people engage with me at that level. I think it just comes down to like, can I actually, in the time we have together, really be present and see you for who you are.
Really be present and see you for who you are. It takes real training to come back to the place. I remember when we were talking, you give me this really simple 1 minute, body scan and 3 breaths, 3 sounds. Do you have some ritual that you do every day? What's the practice you do to get to where you are?
Such a good question. And so for me, the thing that has helped me on this journey, and it's been a journey, has been really meditation. I discovered it after I had my son in 2015, and I've explored various incarnations of it. I've done a 10-day meditation. It's not a retreat, it's a course. You meditate from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. every single day for 10 days. You don't talk. I have explored Zen, and I have a group that I engage with at that level. So there's a lot of things that I've explored. At the end of the day, I think being able to sit on your meditation cushion for 20 minutes and change how you see the world and feel about the world is a superpower that I wish more people would engage in. And so for me, I don't do it every day, but I do it as often as I can. And I say that specifically because when we get into this, I must meditate every day. Again, it becomes a goal, another thing to check off your to-do list. And then it becomes stressful. And I know I did that. One of the years I was I'm going to meditate every single day this year. And by October that year, and I did all the way every single day through October, it was actually really stressful, and I was doing it to meet my goals rather than doing it for the tool that it gave me. And so I noticed the meditation gives you the ability to notice. I noticed what was going on, and I stopped at that point to reset and then engage with my practice in a way that feels that it has more integrity. And so yes, I do recommend meditation as a tool. But really, that's my tool. I think anything that you can engage in that's a flow state activity. If you like dancing, you dance. It brings you back to the present moment. If you like painting, you paint, and it brings you back to the present moment. Whatever it might be, each of us has a lot. My son plays Lego, and it brings him back to the present moment, right? Children have a natural ability to do this all the time. And so my encouragement to people is to find the flow state activities that speak to you and spend some time, invest in yourself and do that activity. And then in a few months, that activity might change. But at any given point, having something that's a flow state activity is a really great way to learn how to be present again. And so I'll say one thing I say, I meditate, and that's really important. But more recently, I bought my son a trampoline for his birthday, and I jump on the trampoline for 25 minutes. And it's amazing exercise. You burn more calories than anything else. It's also really good for your joints. So as you get older, it's fine. But you're also just playing and being present. And the fact that I do it outdoors and there's trees around me, it's amazing, right? As a flow state activity to just come back to the present moment, listen to who you are, and be present for those around you.
Yes, I saw the trampoline, and also I saw on your website, she enjoys working out on trampoline and deep conversations over chai.
Yes, both of those things are true. And I think for the longest time, I think there's this evolution where I think each of us needs to trust ourselves. We need to trust the people around us, and we need to trust the universe. And then if you have that triumvirate, then life is magic, honestly, right? Because I've always, since the time I was very little, I've always trusted the universe. Everything will be all right. I firmly believe it in my bones that everything will be all right. The universe is my partner. The universe has my back. Everything will be all right. Even if there's twists and turns, it'll be fine. And I think that has empowered me to make the leaps, because I really do believe that it'll all be fine. Everything happens the way it's meant to be. And then I have to trust myself and show up in the best way I possibly can. And so that's been the journey, to just trust that, there is a deep knowing and wisdom inside of me, and that the steps I take actually come from that place of wisdom, and trusting who I am and what I'm doing and the steps that I'm taking, even if someone else might not understand that step that I'm taking. Also being compassionate. Sometimes I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And so, in the life that you and I have both lived, the high achieving, I read an article somewhere, McKinsey hires insecure, ambitious people. And you've worked at one of these places, BCG, right? And I've worked at Google and all these places. We are those people. We want to achieve so much in the world, but there's an insecurity. And so learning to trust ourselves and letting go of that insecurity, I think, is a huge leap forward. And so, yeah, mistakes are made, but I feel like I've learned to be compassionate to myself when those mistakes are made. I've learned to hold others accountable to be compassionate to me when I make mistakes because, again, in the atmospheres that I'm talking about, that's not a common trait, mostly because people aren't compassionate to themselves. So, and then when others do things that I don't fully understand, learning to trust that it's coming from a good place as well, and showing compassion there. So this combination of trusting yourself, trusting your community, your support system, and trusting the universe, and then showing compassion to this whole ecosystem, I think is a life hack, for lack of a better word.
A life hack is almost magic,
It's
right?
magic.
You talk about you have been trusting the universe since you were a kid,
Yes.
and it's almost like second nature to you.
Yeah.
If you look back growing up, you mentioned you grew up in India. What type of environment, or maybe your parents created, or maybe it's India, that helped foster that natural trust to the universe? Because not everyone has it.
Not everyone has it. I think some things they're just innate. I remember I was 5 years old, and people have this experience, I'm sure, but I remember it. And I remember just sitting down and thinking, I am the world and the world is me. And this like there is no separation between me and the world. And that is true. Like when I then studied Zen and Buddhism and all of this down the road, people have written about this and there's like philosophies around this. But as a child, it was a felt sense of like, I am connected to source energy. I don't know, it sounds a little woo, but like it was just a felt sense. I don't know, like I had a great family, great support system. My grandparents were there. Like I was an only child for like 6 years, so I had my parents' attention to myself during that time. I don't know if any of that helped, but there was definitely this felt sense of connection. And I think as I grew older, it was really easy to lose sight of that, like because you get on the treadmill, the rat race, and you're like, what's next, what's next, what's next? And honestly, the times I feel best are when I feel like connected to this source energy, this universe. And then it's only recently that I learned to put it in words and say, oh, this means I trust the universe. But that connection has always been a part of who I am. And then you asked me about connecting with people. Like this has been both a blessing and a curse. And I've never really spoken about it, but I feel like for the longest time, I could look at somebody and like internalize all of their emotions. And that was a blessing because you feel like you've known people feel seen because they know that you've seen them, but it's also a lot to take on. And so that's part of the journey that I'm going on, is like, modulating how much I let in and modulating how I want to respond to what I see. But it all comes down to that connection. And I think all of us have it as children. It's a matter of whether we see it and nurture it. And I try to nurture it in my children, but we'll see what happens.
It's so interesting for me to hear you can sense people's emotions. And I'm the same way, super sensitive. Yes, indeed, it's both a magic thing and a curse because you get easily influenced by the external energy. Are you intentionally cultivating the sense of self when you get all the different energy, and then you never know, you can never predict. Sometimes it's like negative energy.
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
Oh my gosh, I think it's a work in progress. I think someone once said to me that in this life, 50% of our work is inner work and 50% is outer work. And then when you found who you are, like just, working really hard to hold on to that is really important. Like, because it's a lot of work to see this inner you. And so you don't let go, right? And so, again, engaging in practices, I think, where you can let go or choosing to let go. Like when you're in a car and someone honks at you or cuts you off, right? Like if you engage in that interaction, suddenly you're connected with that person and their anger and like everything it is that they are projecting. But if you're like, oh, they did that, go ahead, then you're not taking in what they're putting out, right? So like the meditation, the slow state activities helps you see what's coming and then decide, am I going to take this in or not take in? And in Zen, there's this saying that says, who's the host of your house? Which is really harsh, but I think a really good tool, where if an unwanted guest came to your actual home, you'd say, please don't come in, leave, right? And so many of these energies that people put out and your own thoughts and feelings sometimes are unwanted guests. And you, yourself, your center, that's the host of your house. And so you say, I'm the host of my house, and I'm not letting this in right now. And it's intentional and it's powerful, but it takes work. And I mean, I'll be the first to say it doesn't always work. I get irritated, frustrated with the kids. Like at work, sometimes things aren't going the way they should. Like there's a lot that can like rock. And then I used to be very judgmental about like, oh my gosh, now I'm rocked. And just being able to say, yeah, that happened. What am I going to do now? Has been another powerful tool.
So it's almost like slowing things down a little bit so that you have time to respond instead of just react to the events. So as an entrepreneur, I'm pretty sure it's a very stressful journey and emotional journey. And then when you mention about you're connected with the universe, how are you thinking about your own success and the success of AllTakes? Are they completely aligned? What are the challenges that you're working through, especially going from established corporations such as Google to now starting on your own?
Yeah, so I'll actually answer the second question first. The leaving a company like Google to start something was actually a really interesting exercise because it's not something I hadn't thought about. It's something I knew would happen. Like for years, it was there. There's a felt sense that I'm a founder. This needs to happen. The way it happened is so weird. Like I just sat down one day for meditation and I came out of meditation. I'm like, today's the day. And I got on the phone with my manager and I said, I'm done. And then of course we had a transition plan, made sure everything was fine. But there was this like knowing that this is the time. This is the time that I need to go do this for myself and take this next step on my journey. And that was really powerful. And that knowing doesn't come from nowhere. The knowing comes from all of your life experiences and the things you've been thinking about. And so I can tell you the rational reasons that I did it. But like when I did it, it was really clear that this is the next step. There was no doubt that this needed to happen. But when I shared the news, like one of the responses I got is like, how do you have the courage to do this, right? Which I think is a question a lot of people ask. Like you're making a lot more money. It's really clear what your day looks like. You're not making, I mean, if you're middle management, you're making decisions, but you're not making like existential decisions for the company. You have a good work-life balance, great health insurance, like all of that stuff. So how do you have the courage to do this? And I think my answer at that point and even now, I think comes back to trust, because each of us who work at companies like this, in some ways, like our floor is like really high. I mean, we've been to good schools, have great experience. Like actually, we don't have much to lose by doing this. And someone else said, but you have farther to fall. That might be true, but your floor is still really high. And so part of my answer is like, if we aren't brave enough to do this, then like, I mean, who can be brave enough to make this happen? And I'll say, at least in the year that I've been out, like there have been ups and downs. There's a lot of stress. And I love every minute of it. Like it is mine.
Yes.
I get to work with people I want to work with. The team is phenomenal. We're building something every day. There's momentum and we're shipping things and we're talking to people like these women entrepreneurs who inspire us, and then we're helping them succeed. And like, it's just like this amazing place to be. So when you said, is my success tied to AllTakes success? I think as a founder, they are. They're always, it is a job where the two are very intertwined, where you can't separate them. But at the same time, I don't think it's an analytical like version of it. It is like, yes, like I have to do my very best. It's like having children. Like you just show up, you do your very best, you know you've done a good job, and it's nice to get recognized and rewarded for it. but the reward in some ways is also just like knowing who you are and doing the best job that you can.
So you're living the values of AllTakes to be the best version of Minal, and then you can offer it to more people, either as guides or as explorers on your platform.
Yes.
So what has been the biggest challenge? Are there any challenges that you are working through?
I mean, early on, what was interesting was just the way we worked. Used to work in a large company way, overthinking things, like writing documents on so many things. And like, it was interesting because that's the way we'd worked. And then you realize, or we realized that like, actually at a large company, the reason you have all of that is because most decisions are not reversible, right? Like when you put out something, you put out something to the world, like billions of people are using the product, like governments are watching you, like that decision is very, very hard to reverse, right? And there's smaller decisions that you make at a company like YouTube that are easy to reverse, but the ratio of those decisions is completely different. As AllTakes, like you can make a lot of decisions that might not be the right decision, but it's okay because you learn something and then you move quickly and you make the next decision. So like pivoting from trying to make the perfect decision to making a good enough decision quickly and then learning from there was definitely something that I had to like learn. And it's naturally who I am, but I had learned a different way.
You had to unlearn.
I had to unlearn to do it this particular way. So that's been a challenge. I mean, hiring was a challenge early on, like getting your first employee in. The door is hard. We found like amazing people early on. So that was really lucky, who matched who we are and our energy. And like, they're out there today and like really like, showcasing what the company is about, and it's amazing. And then that got easier because we got better at hiring. There were more people, there was more proof points to show, so people came and joined us. So fundraising was hard when I first did it. I'll have to do it again. It's not something that I'm excited about, but it's something that needs to be done to give oxygen to the company. I believe in what we're doing. I think what we're doing not only can change the way people feel inside and the way they show up, and then the economic opportunity that they create in the world, so like massive impact, but also like I think we can have massive returns, like because the trends are people want to be their own boss and do their own thing, especially women. People want to live a more flexible life. People want a space on the internet where they can live with intention. And so through all of this, I think we'll create massive value, even monetarily, but day to day, lots of things are really hard. And one way I've learned to deal with it is I think about it as 2-week blitzes.
2-week blitzes.
Blitzes, which is like, okay, like we need to do this. It's going to take us a couple weeks to learn and get something out the door because we've never done this before. But usually in 2 weeks, like I find myself like very good at that thing that I try to do. You just like, and that's why I used to call them sprints, but I call them blitzes because you just go all in and you learn and you put yourself out there and you get information back and like, you just keep going. And then you look back and you're like, oh, yeah, like that was only 2 weeks. It feels like a long period of time. So also building that trust in our team that like things are hard, but usually takes us a couple weeks and we can figure it out.
Blitz. It's interesting you mentioned a word. I'm doing an interview with Chris Ye, who wrote a book called Blitzscaling.
Yeah.
And then that's, you really run really fast, you iterate, you're not afraid of failure, and then you can figure it out. It's about trust yourself and your team. And one question I had at the back of my mind is, as you are building this, as you're scaling, and you're not afraid of making mistakes, you told me you have fired people before. Was it hard for you emotionally? I ask because even for me, like people are trying to, be on my show, and it's hard for me to say no to people. It's both hard emotionally. I wonder if you have a way to transform this energy and make it pleasant.
Why is it hard for you to say no to people?
I don't know. I don't want to be said no to, I guess. So I don't want to give it to other people.
Yeah. I think so something I learned, it's hard to practice, is the only perspective you have is your own, right? Like I don't live in your body. I don't know your perspective. but all I know is my own perspective. And so I think I used to, and I think many people do, pretend that like I'm doing this kind thing for you. But it might not be kind for you at all, because you might not want this thing that I'm offering you anyway, right? Because you're a different person. And someone once said to me, like she used to sit with, people who've lost their children, and all that you can see is that's this moment that we have together. You actually don't know, like just because they had that history doesn't mean they're a specific way, right? Like we kind of create all these stories. And so that's really helped me to be like, okay, I need to understand what it is that I need to do. Hire this person, not hire this person. Like get this person on my platform, not. Like I need to do what's right for me. And then how I do it can be as kind as possible. But the only perspective I have is my own. And so, I mean, why am I pretending that, like, I know what somebody else needs or wants?
So basically you're saying it's about coming back to your own to decide. And then how you do it, you try to do it in a kind and in a way that's as kind as possible.
Do it in a way that's kind as possible. And then also, I think one thing I've learned as I've grown older is when you do something, you take an action. All of us as human beings put out a lot of energy, right? We think, oh, we're so small, we're one person on this like planet of like 7 billion people. But each of us actually puts out a huge amount of energy, right? So when you take a step, right, it lands on somebody, many people in a variety of different ways, and they'll take a step based on who they are and what they want, what their goals are, and what their patterns are. And you can't always control what happens, right? But what you did is right for you, then you just take the next step and the next step and the next step and you work through it. But if what you did was based off of some shaky logic that I'm doing this because somebody else, like you don't have the ability or the strength to just keep going.
And it's unenjoyable because you're trying to guess what other people is going to respond.
Yeah. And in a very, I don't know, this is so weird, but in a very mind-oriented way, like I think the way I drew this out one day is like, if who we are, like our self-worth and the way we see ourselves depends on how other people see us, right? Then we try to please them so that they see us in a good way, so we see ourselves in a good way. But what if you cut all of that out and just decided, like, I'm gonna see myself in a good way because I'm a good person, I'm gonna strive every day to be a good person? Then it's a much easier problem to solve. And that's all you can do is show up with integrity and show up as who you are and do the best you can every single day. There's like literally nothing else you control on this planet.
Yes, show up with integrity. I love that. Even recently, I had this thought on communication. It used to be, I see a problem, I try to fix it, and I'll tell my husband, you can do this or this. And now I just share, oh, here's a problem. And he comes back always with a better solution than I originally think. It's also about trusting other people.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question on the more personal side. You are a mom of 2 kids, and your daughter just had her 10-year birthday. How are you balancing work and life, or integrate work and life?
I don't know. I think it's hard. Like you're always not where you want to be in some ways, but you're also always where you want to be. So it's this like push and pull. But I think for me, again, just showing up as who I am. And course correcting when I'm not showing up as who I want to be. Like those are the only tools I have. So I'll give you an example, right? Like we were at Stanford, the other day. Like we like going there. The kids like biking around. There's a coffee house there, and then in the coffee house there's all these caricatures of famous Stanford people. Like there's Tiger Woods and Reese Witherspoon and a bunch of people. Like just caricatures. And my daughter, who has been raised in this household, like goes to that wall and she's like, oh, all of these are famous Stanford people. I'm like, yep. And then she says, oh, why are there more boys than girls? And then I'm like, I actually don't know how to answer that question. Is it like because less women get in to start with, then they're not given the opportunity, they doubt themselves? Or is it because they just don't get the recognition at the end of the day? Who knows why this is true? And I'm like, so, instead of taking it on, I just said, yes, there are more boys than girls on the wall, right? So it was a nice way of just reflecting back to her what she'd said. And then she says, Mommy, like, you should be on that wall. And I said, yes, absolutely, I should be on that wall, right? But like, to say like, am I balancing like work and children? But if they see you live your life with integrity, like in some ways it is the best gift that you can give them to live their life with integrity, right? And so I think the guilt of like doing what I like doing best, like it just goes away when I see like at 10, like they can talk back to you. You see the fruits of the labor that you've put in. And I've always worked. I've never stopped working since they were born. And so like this is what you get, right, as an outcome. And then they see you, they see me journal, they see me meditate. And these are all things that are useful life skills for them. I can't tell them, oh, you know, manage your emotions if I'm not taking the time to take care of myself every single day. So that's the other thing. If I'm meditating, they know not to disturb me for those 20 minutes. It's something that they've learned. And it's also a conversation we can have, which is something that's helpful to them. So I feel like the only way I've learned to balance is by being intentional about what I'm doing and how I show up.
It's almost like you don't put them on two sides of the scale to see them as conflict. Actually, one thing, when you live the best version of you, is the best for the company, it's best for the kids, it's best for the house, it's all integrated together.
It's all integrated together. And it's hard. It's hard. Like I have to say, I'm sure you know this, there's some days I just want to go take a nap.
Yeah.
And I do. Yesterday, I remember, was it Sunday? No, Sunday. I was just like, I am so tired. The kids are carving pumpkins. And I'm like, I'm just going to go nap. And I had a 2-hour nap. I woke up and I had some tea. And it was the best afternoon I'd had in a really long time. But I think there's also this notion of like sometimes you just need a reset to slow down as well. Like, because without that, it can be a lot. But yeah, so just every day striving to be the best version I can be of me.
Yes.
In that day.
It's a constant balancing act, but you listen and you trust, and then things will flow. My final question, which I think if you watch my past interview, you know, how do you measure the success of your life?
Oh yeah, that's a big question. It's so hard to do because, you know, since we're growing up, we have so many different versions of it, right? Like where I grew up in India, like being successful, going to good schools, like that is a measure of success. Getting a good job, climbing the corporate ladder, that is a measure of success. Like, you know, finding a good spouse, having children, raising your children well, like that is a sign of success. Having a community that you can lean on, a community of people that like are in some ways in the Buddhist philosophy like mirrors of you, so you can grow with this community, like that's a sign of success. But I think all of that just leads to being able to come back to this place of center and spending time there, because any day where I can see a tree and see its beauty is a good day. Any day that I'm rushing past that tree and I don't even notice is not such a good day. And so I think, you know, it's hard to measure, but I think like coming back to like as much as we can be present for our lives, that I think is the sign of success.
So any day you can notice a tree and enjoy the beauty and find your joy.
Yeah,
it's a good day.
It's a good day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Minal. It's so
Thank
nice
you,
having
Faye.
you.
Of course.
So please follow AllTakes. It's really a place for you to be the best version of yourself. Find your own joy. Thank you so much, Minal.
Thank you, Faye.
If you have enjoyed Loving Life conversation series, People Who Change the World, subscribe to my channel at LHLovingLife. Give a like, share with your friends. Thank you.